Okay, let's look at this Coco Loco variety of rose here for fertilization. First, let's back up. It's had a general treatment in terms of deadheading. Whoops. Deadheading and some light summer pruning. Again, we're awaiting a continued bit of bloom here, but it's not too early to get in and re-up the fertility and get this thing generating new lush growth again that will be topped in 4 or 6 weeks with another round of bloom. So we're going to use compost, and the deal with compost is that it is amazing. The good thing about compost is that it's slow acting. The nutrients are slowly leached into the ground for the plant. The bad thing about compost is it's too slow acting for roses, and yet it is of quality both in the immediate and the intermediate time frame. But to really get things going again with new vegetative growth, we are going to use organically certified fertilizers. We will use variously different brands over time, anything with about 5% nitrogen or higher. One good one is Sustain. Another, it would be the Dr. Earth products and the G&B, which stands for Gardener in Bloom. Great name for a brand. You can use blood meal, which is 10 to 12% nitrogen. And let me add here that a conventional chemical farmer, rose grower, would use a nitrogen fertilizer that had in the vicinity of 40% nitrogen. Those plants are going to grow much more vigorously than ours with a more conservative, judicious, I might add, 5–8% nitrogen. The 40% nitrogen also will be, in a large sense, readily leached down into the water table. Not good. So a more conservative, judicious approach is the way to go. Certified organic fertilizers. Sustain, Dr. Earth, Gardener in Bloom. There are many out there on the market. 15 years ago, you go to the garden center and they got like a 1. Now every time I go, it's option paralysis. There are more and more certified organic fertilizers on the market, and that's because of you. Consumer demand. It's not like these companies suddenly saw the light philosophically and decided to go organic. Ka-ching, ka-ching, there's a profit margin there. They're going that way, supplying the organic grower. It's good. So we use Sustain, which is a broad spectrum fertilizer with nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Nitrogen for vegetative growth, phosphorus for root growth, and more importantly, flowering, and potassium for stem strength, particularly in your cutting stems like that. And then we add a little bit, a small amount, it's almost homeopathic, not quite literally, of course, but amount of both alfalfa meal and kelp meal. And yeah, they contain nutrients, especially kelp, which contains a range of micronutrients. You could say that kelp products are an organic gardener's insurance policy against trace or micronutrient deficiencies. But what's important about both alfalfa and kelp is that they can contain a number of growth hormones that stimulate growth. Particularly alfalfa, which contains a hormone called triacontanol, which is by research proven to really stimulate both root growth and enhance photosynthesis. So just a little bit. So when you're applying fertilizer, what we've done here is we've cleared out the mulch to just beyond the drip line of the plant. The drip line being if there were rain or water applied from above, that is the circle that the rain would fall on the ground. And then you always want to be conscious of where are the roots and where are you putting the fertilizer. Basic principle is you put the nutrients at or above the effective feeding root zone of any plant. In this case, with a 2-year-old rose, the roots extend out laterally just beyond the drip line, starting at the surface, going down. Again, this is not the totality of the root mass, but the effective feeding root zone. The effective feeding root zone is probably in the top 8 or 10 inches. So you do a surface application and you scratch it into the soil 2 or 3 inches, and again you follow with water to dissolve those powders and the compost, liberate nutrients into the soil water for uptake, and also to work gently the nutrients down into the deeper aspect of the 8 to 10 inch effective feeding root zone. So let's apply. This is my friend, colleague Liam, and he's going to aid here, and we're going to apply a heaping spadeful of compost distributed evenly around the shrub here. And let me just say, in this instance, and in almost every other spread, and in almost every other instance when it comes to gardening or farming, you want to employ the evenness principle. Everything you do, you try to do as even as you can, so the roots on this side get access to as much as the roots on this side. So it doesn't matter if it's digging, you're thorough and even, it's fertilizing, it's watering, everything is done as even as you can. That is the object. So we've got compost applied here, and then we can sprinkle on top of it. We're using about a ½ pound of Sustain. Again, a very good, basically it's composted chicken and turkey manure and litter. And so we're spreading it evenly in the same zone. And then we can come in with, as I refer to them, the magic pixie dust, the wonder substance. Here we have a couple ounces of kelp. Again, micronutrient aplenty, and various growth hormones. And often, sometimes, and again, this is anecdotal, not totally research-based, but after you've applied kelp and it's effectively into the plant, you see a thickening up of the leaves and a greening up of the leaves, and it's a good thing. And then we have a similar amount of alfalfa meal. And both these have nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, but we're not really, but also in very low amounts. We're not using them for that, but rather for their stimulating effects of the growth hormones like that. So you sprinkle, spread, again, the evenness principle. Pretty darn good in the evenness principle being executed here. Kudos to Liam. And then we're going to just scratch it into the soil. You can use a trowel and just lightly work it in off the surface. Interface it with the top couple inches of the soil. And subsequently, off camera, we'll water. Just puddle it up. We've got a little basin created here. Flood it once, flood it twice. Activate the dry fertilizer. Leach it down slightly into the root zone. Get the plant off and growing again. And again, don't slack. Don't lag. Don't lay back. As soon as you think you're past the peak of bloom, get in there and re-up your fertilizer. Get going, get growing with a new round of growth. Again, top 4, 5, 6 weeks down the line with big, fat, beautiful blooms. Okay, I'm going to hand water in the compost and fertilizer. I've got a hose on a stream here, and I'm going to come around and just flood it till I see an accumulation on the surface, and then I'll probably make a second and or a third pass. We also generally use inline drip to water our roses on a regular basis. We've pulled it off the plant right now for working under it. We'll reapply it and give these bushes a good, thorough watering. Although I may not actually do that right now because of our extenuating circumstances with the weather. That is to say, it's been so wet this winter, 65 inches of rain, and even though it stopped raining a month or so ago, the soil is not dried down enough to water. This is unprecedented. Usually with roses and fruit trees, by April you're watering, by May you're watering at a full rapid pace like that. Here we are the last day of May, and then checking the soil under most of the roses and the fruit trees. I'm going to guesstimate it'll be 2, maybe even 3 weeks before we need to water. This is, like I said, unprecedented, but from a waterer's perspective, not unenjoyable. Gives you time to do other things. And so our final step after watering would be to reapply and to re-up the mulch. So we're just going to gently reposition the mulch around the shrub. Let me just say, with trees, with roses, with shrubs, woody plants in general, don't put nothing up against the trunk. It don't amount to no good, bad English as that is. Anything alive, biologically active up against the trunk can, if there's an injury, can cause bacteria and fungi to get in there. So you just leave a little collar around the base of the plant here. And then we're going to add some more chips. The adding of the chips is A, pretty, but B, more importantly, just does a capping in of the moisture, so you're going to have to water less frequently. And C, not unimportantly, is a physical barrier for any fungal spores on the ground that might bounce up into the canopy and infect or reinfect the plant. Again, with roses, with fruit trees, almost all the diseases, the vector is fallen leaves on the ground. Get them out of the system, physical barrier of mulch over them, it's all good.
And how about weed suppression?
Oh, yeah, right. Another valuable, important function of mulch is it really is a good weed suppressant. Well, sort of, not 100%. It is fairly to very effective, maybe in the 90% area with annual weeds, less so with perennial weeds. But with perennial weeds, when you have to come and dig them out, nut sedge, Bermuda grass and such, it makes it easier to uproot the plant and get it gone as they're growing in a nice loose substrate of mulch.